Do the research. Take the time, invest your time in trying to learn about all these various requirements that we are trying to fulfill to pull something like this off, right? Because there's many components in doing this. It's not just this area or that area or that area. You set your priorities on your plan and what you need. Obviously, the first thing that you need to do is you need to be able to hear the message in the room. That is the most important thing, right? You don't need a microphone for that. It depends how big your sanctuary is, how many people you have sitting in front of you. But it's really important to hear the word. So obviously, proper mics. And believe me, a microphone is just not a microphone. That's why there are 2,000 different microphones made. There are very specific microphones for very specific applications. There's speech microphones, there's vocal microphones, there's harmonica microphones, there's drum microphones, there's a lot of different types of mics. And you go down through this chain of priorities. Then obviously we have to get into, if we got more than one microphone, then we got to mix it. And it goes on, and then we got to amplify it, and then we got to distribute it. Same thing with visual acquisition. What I mean by visual acquisition is cameras. They capture the image. Now, a lot of people think about, okay, what camera do I choose for this application? I think you should ask, okay, the number one thing about doing all of this is based on the environment that you are in. It's all about the environment. How far is my camera throw? How big is my room? How high is the ceiling? What is the structure of the building, right? That's a really important place, because I'm going to take this a little bit outside of church. It's a production studio, all right? That's what it becomes if you're trying to get the message out. The most important thing is obviously to connect with the people that are sitting here, right? The object of all of what we're trying to do is to try to bring people into your house, trying to get their tush in your seat, right? And support the missions that you have, right? What makes you different from the guy down the street, right? What's your message? So that is the objective. So let's look at it as a business, from a financial standpoint. How much am I willing to invest? What are we willing to do? What is the congregation willing to put out there? How do they value all this investment that we're doing? So it's really, really important to put together a plan. And I'm not talking a short-term plan. I'm talking a long-term plan, right? Where are we going to be? What do we want to do in 7 years? Wow. Can we think out far, 7 years? Well, I can guarantee you won't be able to do that with technology at our technology rate, with massive turnover every 3 years. But just think generally, as a congregation, what do we want to do? Do we want to? How many more people do we want to attract? How do we want to attract those people? What type of programming do we want to do? What do we want to offer? What services? So you put that plan together, and then obviously you got to say, okay, what do we need to achieve that plan? And it's not just money that we need to achieve that plan. What type of people and resources do we need? Because content cannot be produced without people. So you got to have the right people in place to do it. So you set up, okay, what is that team going to look like? But then you try to budget all that stuff out. Well, oh God, how am I going to pull this all together? Because we want to do this like in 2 years, but from a financial model, what does that really look like? It's going to take 5 years. I will tell you, in every one of your churches, all you need is the one right person to walk in the door to support that vision. And it happens. It can happen, right? It's just a bigger chunk, right? You got to be prepared to answer the question when somebody asks, what is it going to take to get there, right? From a financial standpoint. There is a big shift. Pastor Dennis wanted me to mention this. He's participated in this. A lot of churches in the past have not participated in, I'll say the word, financing. Because usually, you don't spend unless you have, right? Well, the model has changed. Everywhere else in other industries that use this technology, more and more people are financing the technology. What does that financing mean? Well, if I was to sit down with your accountant or your CFO or your CPA and say, this is an off-balance sheet expense and not a capital expense, you don't get the depreciation, but you amortize it over time, and it's off balance sheet. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's a monthly expense. So let's say I had to go, I had a vision, I'm going to go out and spend $200,000 on technology, but it costs me $310 a month. Could my church afford to spend $310 a month over the next 3 years to pay for that $200,000 worth of technology that I get today? It's happening more and more. Right? One of the things about financing, and I'm not talking going to a bank and getting a loan. You do not want to do that. You want to go to people that finance technology because they know how to turn and roll that technology over and keep you in that, I'll call it system or lease process. So 2 or 3 years down the road, there's a newer technology. It's called a roll-up. I want to roll up that technology into a newer technology because the model that I bought that was promised to me, that I bought a year ago that finally works from a manufacturer, right? Because they shove it out the door fast and you don't want to be on the bleeding edge of things, right? Right? So you roll up the technology and through a leasing company, they'll take that technology back and they'll roll you up into new technology and keep that payment going. It's like leasing a car. It's business. A lot of businesses lease a car. Same concept. There are more eloquent people to present that argument than me, but I'm just letting you know that there are, like Scott Grossman at, what's the name is? U.S. Media Capital. They're financiers down in Los Angeles at technology, all the studios, everybody buys equipment like that these days. So there's a shift in that model. But I want to get back a little bit to the plan. You got to put a long-term plan together. Put it down with your group and say, this is what it's going to, this is what it's going to take to do it. The financial. What is the big vision? And then back it in and say, where are our priorities? Like again, we started sound. First thing you do is you treat the room. Then you decide what else you're going to do, right? Then you decide what PA systems and microphones and mixers and everything else. Sony makes incredible cameras. They just talked about a motion picture. They shot a motion picture with a $3,000 camera, right? $40,000 lens. Talk about it, okay? $40,000 lens. We don't pick cameras anymore, we pick lenses first. We pick lenses first because I've got a 27-foot throw to those cameras right now. That's a big difference if I've got a 45-foot throw, a 50-foot throw, a 75-foot throw. That determines what level of technology that you're able to do to be able to capture a good image. Because some of the more cost-effective cameras have very short lenses. They're only 10 times lenses. Well, that means I can only be X far away, right? Usually, as an example, the cameras in here, they've got probably $19,000 pieces of glasses on them. This church is lucky. They got a good friend that puts a lot of stuff in here. So I get to speak up here because I'm Uncle Mark and I give them all my stuff. But no, and you can look out there, and there are value buys out there at times, right? So the plan is sit down, and you got to be able to fill all the check boxes. You got to identify the check boxes. What are they? Okay, we need this, this, this. We need this capability, this capability, this capability. And just start checking those off. The problem is in order to produce perhaps what the goal is, all of this stuff, I need all of these boxes, right? So then what you do is you bring the level of all of your boxes technology down. And I say, slow down and level it out, right? Level out those purchases so you can accomplish the entire task. Somebody's going to say, It's really important that I have a really mobile camera, right, that I can run around. So do I need a wireless camera? Or do I need a jib? You got to prioritize things, that type of stuff. Technology is coming way down in price. I mean, 15 years ago, an average camera sale for me was $75,000. I can get better quality out of a $3,000 camera today. I'm serious. It's amazing. Some of the stuff that's being showed here, if you look back when we used to sell some of the higher end cameras, what's available is unbelievable. It's just putting the list together and finding balance. We have a lot of shift going on today. Before, robotic cameras used to cost a fortune. An average robotic camera, which we had separate components. We had a robotic pan tilt, we had a camera and a separate lens, and a separate controller. And now we have all these little integrated, they look like surveillance cameras, right? But they're not. They may have come out of that factory, but these cameras have 30 times optical lenses built into them. They operate at a very low light level. So today I would look at a smaller venue, or actually any church probably under 2,000 people, and say, well, the complement of cameras that I would probably put 3-to-1 PTZ over a manned camera. The reason that we put manned cameras in is to be able to track and to follow, if they can keep up. These are the new guys I want to see. Can they keep up? You can't do that with a PTZ camera. There's no way that you can do smooth tracking, use the frame of thirds, being able to lead as I walk across. I'm supposed to be in the back third of the camera, right? Can't do that with PTZ, but for quick shots, getting away, getting a shot when I turn like this, or I turn like that, you have all those cameras sitting around. The more camera angles you have, it's pretty amazing. This is an amazing camera right over here. This is a $600 camera. This is a high definition camera with HD SDI coming out right here. Little Marshall cameras. We sell those by the 12-pack, usually. We call them 12 packs, right? You put them everywhere because what it does is it makes that, you're not working so hard to come up with that dynamic and being able to get all those different camera shots all the time. It's a fixed focal length, it doesn't move, you clamp them on, you leave them there. We're even making them wireless these days. So you can just move them around. All you need is, you don't even need power because they're battery operated. You just slap them around, move them around all the time. I usually give camera presentations, a lot of camera presentations. Wireless is getting they have a wireless camera back here. They have a little wireless transmitter by Swit for their location. It's great. It's about a $2,300 wireless package with 0 delay. So when you're looking for wireless to be able to move around, be freely, the important thing is the millisecond delay. You're talking 3 millisecond delay, which is nothing. Where do we go next? I talked about lensing. Lensing is really important. It's all about where you put the cameras in the sanctuary. Do you want them, if you have larger sanctuaries, do you want to put the cameras in the middle of the audience, right? Are you going to put the audio board where it belongs? If you're doing front of house mixes, where do you think you should put the audio board? Front of house, in the middle, not up high, behind a window, not off into a corner, because how can they do a mix in the room, right? Can't do it. So if you're going to produce content, you got to kind of treat it as a little bit of a studio. I know, I said it. It's real, but yet the people that come to the congregation, you want to make them comfortable. You want to make it easy for them to look at iMag. I know Dennis is sitting up there, and I'm going to say this. I'm not a huge fan of that in sanctuaries this size. I wish Dennis's stage was a little bit lower, and I was a little bit closer to this, because it's all about this, right? It's about touching these people, but even though I'm reaching out to a much bigger audience, because that's where I'm going to grow my congregation, it's really important to take care of the people here, because they're the ones that take care of you. You take care of each other. So I think Dennis is probably going to do that, because every time I make a suggestion, he moves it, does it? No. But, and I think people want to get more in touch with their congregation. I think it's important. The larger rooms, if you got 5,000 people or 4,500 people, you're going to want to start putting this up, just so people can see what's going on. Projection technology is changing dramatically. We've got laser projectors out now, starting in the $3,000 price range, right? Never have to change one of those $450 lamps for the next 10 years, right? Very high lumens. You don't have to get up in there. You don't have to get up there with a lift that you don't have, and you have to go rent that lift or that ladder, so you have to change the lamp or clean the filter. You don't have to do that with laser projectors. So that type of technology getting really, really affordable. This is a laser projector. They put it in last year. I think it's an 8,000 lumen projector. But they also have a lot of light down here, right? So selecting what technology you use, once again, you got to look at the environment. There's no windows in here. If you've got a sanctuary that's got windows, it's a whole different ball game, right? If you want bright projectors. This was a project that was done about a year ago. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. This is becoming very popular background because you can change it often, right? It sets the mood, it sets the tone for the environment that you're in. If you want to create a feeling, which is what it's all about, change the video background. That's what you're getting on camera. That's not this, and it's also important for here. Dennis used to do a lot more moving lights in his sanctuary, right? You change that. They stabilized the lights. Before, they used to have a lot of color splash and used to be all over. That's kind of changing a little bit in this space. It's being settled down. Because it's really important for Dennis to capture good flesh tone, right? And the only way you're going to do that is with white light coming from the front. So you notice he's got all white light on the front, no color. You don't want to put color light on me because that camera doesn't know how to deal with that. Well, my skin will not look like skin, right? So all the colors in the background, or you splash it elsewhere. And keep it off your screens. Keep the light off your screens, because then you're just paying to illuminate. You're pushing light on light. When choosing projectors, also a very important thing, people just say, well, I need any screen. No, you got to pick the right screen. You match projector and screen. Not all screens are equal. So what people can say is they can go out and they'll go spend $10,000 on a projector, and they'll spend $700 on a screen. Why not go spend $1,500 or $2,000 on a screen and $5,000 on a projector? So you can do that? Yeah, because what you are looking at is reflected light. You're not looking into a projector. You're looking at light hitting a surface and coming back at you. So by getting proper material, and yeah, there are lots of different types of materials for screens. So take that into consideration when you're upgrading. Because that's part of all finding the balance and educating yourself a little bit more about that stuff. Then we got to record all this stuff, store all this stuff. I mean, obviously, everybody talks about streaming. Every year I come up here and I say we all possess the most powerful tool in the world. We could reach everybody. It's ridiculous what you can do with this these days. And people do a lot of stuff with it. I was just talking with the gentleman over here who's got a church in Wenatchee, just starting up. He just wanted to do some streaming, so his son, was it your son? Brother, puts it on a tripod, puts it up there, starts streaming Facebook Live off of this. Believe it or not, Zeiss makes an entire lens kit for iPhones and Androids. Snap-on lenses that can change the optics of your phone for $75, right? You got to start somewhere. There's no right or wrong. Oh, okay. And then she tells you what to do. Right, it's like being at home. You can't change her voice, right? But that's where it starts. It's amazing what you can do today with very little. It's just you have to have a good plan in place to execute it. Then this, you can achieve the same. I can get audio and video into this phone, right? We have ways of plugging audio mixers wirelessly into iPhones. Right? Right? I can mix everything in here. I could mix 20 mics, 30 mics, and I could mix it down and I could push it into this iPhone wirelessly. Right? That's your one camera. That's actually scary. I'm glad I'm close to retirement because the fact that you can do that, so you wonder what's coming next. And you talk about high resolution. It's amazing what these phones can do these days. So sometimes it doesn't take a lot of money. Sometimes it just takes a good plan and vision to execute that. And do it in a tasteful, tactical way. It's not about the quantity of content that you put up there. It's about the quality of what you do put up there being good, right? And sometimes it's just a little, because sometimes a little is better. Because what's the objective of all this? What is the objective? Get somebody in that seat, right? That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to use this tool to bring people in, right? And yes, it's also good for our youth to learn a skill, right? When I was younger, I didn't have synagogues. We don't have cameras in synagogues. I couldn't go to the synagogue and learn how to do video. Just no. We're lucky we even have microphones. We have cantors, and they just blast it out. We don't have microphones. So it would have been a great place to learn this skill set if you wanted to go into it. House of Worship is growing with technology, probably more rapid still than any other vertical that we deal with. Whether it's high-end corporate, definitely more than broadcast, because that's consolidating. So to learn these skills, to come to a local church and let people know, or youth know, that you need their help and that you give them an opportunity to work on this technology is great. It's another way to go get more help. It's amazing what these kids can do, especially these Cummins kids, man. They live in it. How old are you, 11 now? 13 now. I've known him since he was like 4. But he's 13, sitting back, doing the youth ministries mix, and it's great. It's a great place for people to learn. That's another service that you also provide. It's part of the community that you create. Other camera technology that you'll see, we're starting to put tracks along the top of, they don't have one here yet. Dennis is going to go, now I get one. We're starting to put tracks in churches, running cameras on the tracks with articulating arms that come down, because sometimes jibs become disruptive to a portion of the audience. They produce a beautiful shot, right? It's the shot you're used to seeing. You're going to see a lot more shots where you're going to see cameras running on tracks and elevating and articulating, because they don't get in people's views. And we're moving away, and you keep them behind the lights. You know why, don't you? Yeah, shadow. So you keep them behind the lights, and we're running cameras like that. Very cost effective, actually. More and more of these small cameras just to break that up. Streaming is getting really cost effective. Everybody talks about streaming. That's your avenue. No one in this room, what congregation here is going out and buying television airtime? None. It's really expensive. And it's not an emerging market. Very fewer and fewer churches are putting their content on television because it costs so much money, and they get a much greater reach if they are putting it out there over the web, or as Craig talked about, OTT. That Roku thing is really interesting. It's pretty affordable, and you're going to see a lot more ways of getting your message out there. It's only 4:30. What time was I going to go to? 4:45? 3:45? I would pray I wasn't going to go here. I didn't come prepared. No, I came prepared. Is there anything specific? I'm going to just ask. Any specific thing? I mean, you've had a long day of a lot of people asking you, what do you want to know about? It's supposed to end now? Whenever. Yeah, I did talk about leasing. See, you weren't in the room. It's a really good thing to look at. If you want to know more about it, just get in touch with me and I will get you in touch with the right people. It's where you execute your plan, whatever that plan is, a lot faster. Because you can pull it all in now. Versus, okay, it's going to take us 3 or 4 or 5 years to make that vision happen. Wasn't there another way that you financed some gear at one point? How did you do that?
We used a company called Siegel.
Right.
And people were able to use their retirement funds and moved it over, and it created a second to the property. So it guaranteed. It wasn't a bond program. It was a guarantee program. And we just paid all that off. So
I think you did that like 3 years ago?
Yep.
Right. Yep. Get creative with the finance. Get your financial people involved. They're usually the last people to get involved. Get them involved with your plan. It's really important. And obviously the elders and the people who have been around for a long time trying to convince them that we're going over to this new technology, right? We should invest in this. It's going to help us grow our congregation. If you're not using technology today and getting the word out, it's becoming difficult to keep people. And we have people because of age leaving our churches, right? Passing on. $1.50 pup. I didn't get that one.
$1.50 puppet doesn't work to reach out and get people into the church.
Puppets. Right. The puppet ministry's dead.
I don't know anything about that.
They don't have puppets in synagogue.
I didn't get it. I'm going like, what's going on? I mean, I learned to speak Hebrew from Danny O'Day, but that's okay. It's another story. So new ways of going out.